Hi everyone. Today I'm going to talk you through how to answer question 4 on paper 1 of the Pearson Edexcel English language exam, and I'm going to be using the June 2017 paper, which you can download on the link below. So this question is the evaluate question, and the important thing to remember about this is it's worth more marks than questions 1, 2 and 3 put together. So it's the most important question on the reading section of this paper, so you really need to make sure that you have a good go at it. Okay, so it's always going to pretty much look like this. The bits that are highlighted will not really change from paper to paper. It will always say in this extract there is an attempt to, and then obviously what it's attempting to do will change according to the extract, but in this case it's to create an atmosphere of mystery. So basically you're looking for, how does the writer try to create a sense of mystery? But also, if we have a look at the next line, we have to evaluate how successfully this is achieved. So we need to look for bits that are mysterious, that create an atmosphere of mystery. So we need to find bits of the text that are mysterious or you think are trying to create mystery, and then we need to say how successfully this is achieved. So how does the writer do it? So how, and then how well. Okay, and then support your views with detailed reference to the text. We need to put some evidence, so either some quotes or some kind of paraphrasing of the text. So like, in the bit where this happens, it seems mysterious because. Okay, so those are the 3 elements that you need to make sure you include in your text. In your answer. A little note is it's not really a great idea to say, oh, this is completely unsuccessful, because obviously the exam board has chosen this text because they do think it is pretty much successful. You can, of course, rank your paragraphs and say, well, this bit is more successful than that part, but I would generally err on the side that it is successful. Okay, before we start to look at how to answer this, let's just have a look at the mark scheme, because there's a bit of confusion really, and this is quite understandable. Most people would quite rightly, or quite understandably, by looking at the mark scheme, think that what the examiner's looking for is a whole load of paragraphs on ideas, events, themes or settings. However, you can write a full mark answer without mentioning any of those. That's not to say that if you included them that it would be wrong, but really you can write about anything. You can write about how any technique or anything that the writer's done which creates an atmosphere of mystery. Okay, so for example, setting might be a good thing to write about, because and we'll have a look at that in a minute. In this case it is, but it might not always be. Often it's really hard to find what the theme is, and events, well, really you can just write about stuff that happens in the story anyway, so you don't really have to label it and make a paragraph on each or anything. So don't feel like you have to write about ideas, events, themes or settings. I prefer to say to my students, just find parts of the text, things that happen, things that are said, words that are used that help create mystery. So it's kind of misleading really, that, and as an examiners we're not told that they have to fulfill that bullet point, so I don't really know why it's there. The other thing to note is evaluation, like it's in the question, but it only comes up on level 5 of the mark scheme. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't try to evaluate, even if you're thinking, well, I'm not going to get 13 out of 15, I'm only aiming to get a 4 or 5, I'm going to try to get level 3. But even if you're trying to get level 3, still try to put those evaluation words in, like successfully, effectively, etc., because that shows that you're answering the question. And the higher you go up the mark scheme is because of the way that you're explaining how well the writer's done it, and all those connotations and that kind of thing, how well you're explaining the writer's techniques. And then of course you need to make sure that you do include references, so that's the 3rd bullet point here. So references are important, but again, they don't always have to be direct quotes. It is a good idea to put one or two where you're looking at the effect of certain words, because that's always a bit of a winner. But writing more generally about sort of certain scenes or events is also fine, as long as it's reference to the text. Okay, so hopefully that is clear. It is a little bit confusing, that mark scheme, but I think the best way to think about it is, if you have a look here, I find a lot of my students, the ones that are aiming for 4s or 5s, which is most of my students, they find this is quite helpful. So we use peel paragraphs. So the writer successfully creates a sense of mystery by, and then you choose a bit of the text where you think the writer's trying to create mystery. Then you give a little quote from that text, or just explain a little bit about what's happening in that bit of the text. And then this is the really important bit of the paragraph. The explanation and the link is your saying it effectively creates mystery because, and then you're really trying to think, well, how does it create mystery? Why does it make me feel that this is mysterious? What's the connotation of those words? And I've also included link because sometimes my students forget to link back to the question. We've already kind of linked in the point, but there's no harm really in just kind of over egging the pudding and just making sure that you use another evaluative word. So in this case we use effectively, and just making it really clear to the examiner that you're answering the question. Okay, so let's have a look at the text. And like I said, I try and get my students to find 3 or 4 bits of the text which relate to the question. So in this case, where there is an atmosphere of mystery. And it's often quite a good idea to get something from the beginning, something from the middle, something from the end, but that's not always possible. So I'm going to scroll slowly through the text, and you pause it where you need to make sure that you've read it all. Obviously, if you've printed out your own paper, that's ideal. Try to find some bits of the text which relate to mystery. Okay, so I'm just going to scroll back, pause it if you need to, and we can go through some ideas. One thing to point out again here is it's absolutely fine to repeat something that you've already talked about in questions 1, 2, or 3. If you can make it relate to this question, so you can use a similar quote that you've used already, as long as in this case you're relating it to mystery. Okay, so for example, here we may well want to write about the sudden appearance of the woman. Yeah, so this is, of course, something that we've already looked at in the earlier questions, but it's a really important part of the text. And the fact, so you could say the writer creates a sense of mystery by the woman suddenly appearing in front of him. And then you could put a little quote in about how she dropped from the heavens, or she sprung out of the earth. So you could use a small quote there, and then you could say this creates a sense of mystery because he's really confused. It makes the reader and the narrator really confused about why she suddenly appeared. We've got the word sprung, which is quite a surprising word. We've got the word dropped. Why she dropped? Has she been kind of thrown out of heaven by God or something like that? You can go crazy. If you're not sure why that word's been used, or you're not sure what it means, that's absolutely fine. Just say this could mean, or the reader might think, or the reader might be confused and wonder, and then just put your ideas down. Okay, and that's great. And even if you have 2 ideas, it could mean this or it could mean this. Even better, the examiners love that kind of thing. Okay, so we've got that. Then we've got her appearance later on. Oh, yeah, so we've got her appearance, maybe mysterious. So he's looking at her in such detail, isn't he? Because he's really mystified. He can't work her out. He can't work out if she's what sort of woman she was. Because remember, in those days, like things like class were really important, weren't they? So he can't really work that out. Like, is she dead or alive? Is she upper class or middle class or working class? Like that, any of those kind of things. He's really um, he's confused. You can pick out words that show there's an air of mystery. Sort of, for example, like perplexingly shows that he's confused. Um, then you've got the setting. So in this case, the setting is something that you could write about, isn't it? So you've got the fact that it's a suspiciously late hour in a suspiciously lonely place. You've got the fact that it is in the moonlight, here we go, up here. This bit here says she's in the moonlight. And then you could talk about, well, how does that generally in books and films, why is it being dark and in the moonlight make it more mysterious? What's the associations we have with that sort of time of day? Why has the writer put it like that? And then you've got the conversation between them. So the way that she speaks, again, could be quite mysterious. The things that she's saying could be mysterious. Then you've got these questions. So remember, a mistake that my students often make is they think that questions are always rhetorical questions to the reader, and they're asking, and that's often the case with non-fiction, but often in fiction, where there's questions, it's often the narrator or the character is questioning themselves. So in this case, I think, steal after me and touch me, why not call to me? He's just showing, it's a way for the writer to show us that the narrator is really confused and he's questioning himself. Okay, and then things like saying strange. So there's loads of ideas here that you can choose, and then you can pop them into your little format here. Maybe do that 3 or 4 times. It's better to do 3 and really go for the really great explanation than it is to just try to do 4 but do it but more superficially. Okay, so let's have a look at some possible example answers. So we've got one here. So this is on the examiner's report, which you can get from the Edexcel website. I'll try and put a link below as well for you to download this. So this one got high marks. There's various different paragraphs, but I'm just going to show you a couple of them. So this one, they've actually used setting. So here they go. Furthermore, pathetic fallacies also used to create an atmosphere of mystery. The man in the extract is only able to see the features of the woman through the moonlight, creating an eerie and mysterious tone. Moonlight has connotations of dark, evil, and people partaking in ludicrous actions, as lunatic is derived from the word lunar, which means moon. This creates an atmosphere of mystery as the woman is wandering the streets alone and late at night. People are usually at homes in the night, as the outside environment can become dangerous in the night, offers concealment for people. Okay, so you might think, well, yeah, obviously night is like spooky, but you need to explain it. So this person has not just goes, it's mysterious because it's the moonlight, but they've gone into loads of detail, almost overly explained why it creates mystery. And that's kind of what you need to do. Okay, you need to talk about it in as many different ways as you can to really make sure that you've covered all the bases there. And here we go. Here we are. They've remembered to put in the evaluative word. So try and pop these in as much as you can as well. Collins continues to successfully create an atmosphere of mystery. At first, the woman appears to speak quietly and her movements are still and mechanical. This creates a tone of mystery as her characteristics seem unearthly and inhuman. Okay, so again, he or she has explained why quietly and still and mechanical are mysterious. Okay, they haven't just assumed that the examiner would know that. And here's a way that you can do that kind of single word analysis that really gives a good answer as well. So in addition to this, the dynamic verb dropped, so this is where they're talking about she might be dropped from heaven, gives negative connotations which could suggest the woman was forced to leave heaven due to her actions, which creates a mysterious tone as well. Okay, so don't worry if you don't know that dropped is a dynamic verb. You could just say the verb, or if you're really not confident about your parts of speech, just say the word dropped, because actually it's the explanation which gets you the mark, not the fact that it's a dynamic verb. That's not part of the mark scheme to know, exact parts of speech. Okay, so hopefully that gives you an idea of how to answer the question. So going back to this, basically you go through the text, finding bits of the text which relate to the question. So in this case, a sense of mystery or an atmosphere of mystery. Then you find a quote that shows that. Preferably, if you can, do a bit of single word analysis as well, like pick out words that create a sense of mystery. And then say, how does that create a sense of mystery? So the fact that it's at night, the fact that he's confused, the fact that the clothes are really strange, whatever it is you're writing about, say how they do that. What links does it give in the reader's brain? It could make, and like I said, use things like it could mean this, or the reader might feel like this, or the reader may feel like this, or they may feel like this, and so they don't know which is right, therefore it's mysterious. Okay, so trust yourself on this, and think about what for you is mysterious. Okay, so I hope that's been helpful. Look out for questions 1, 2 and 3, and also for the writing section. Bye.